Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Clara, and this is a spoilered version where I talk about the puzzles in The Lord of the Rings Shadow over Middle-earth Exit the Game. Mouthful. But there is a spoiler-free review, which will be a quicker short review that I'm uploading at the same time. So if you haven't played it and you don't want spoilers, go and watch that version. I'll put a link somewhere. But if you've already played it and you want to get my thoughts on the puzzles in a spoiler way, well, this is for you. But spoiler in terms of did I enjoy it? Oh yeah, that was fun. It was a fun one. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the actual puzzles themselves, but I think, and I already talked about this in the review, but I really like the way the story in this one sat alongside the Lord of the Rings books or films. I thought that was really good fun. I really enjoyed the way it worked. I thought it was clever the way that you've got the main Lord of the Rings story, and with Lord of the Rings, you've got all these different stories going off all together. And what they did with this was create a story that sat alongside it really well, and it sort of interacted and made sense in terms of the narrative of the films and the books, and added to it. And I just thought that was brilliant. So it's like, oh, we need the Balrog to be stirred up to get rid of the orcs. So can you go and do that? Can you go and get Strider and tell him to warn the hobbits that the riders are coming and things like that? I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that was so much fun. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, that was just brilliant. And that's where this one will probably sit better for fans of the franchise. Ooh, I bet Tolkien never used the word franchise when he was thinking writing it. But anyway, so let's talk about some of the puzzles. So I like the fact that there was props. I like the riders and putting the numbers out. And with that, I really enjoyed the fires. I like the fact that you put the fires out and you were trying to figure it out. It was a nice little puzzle. It's like, oh, can you see 8 from north, or what about from south? Can you see them from south? I thought that was really fun. I will say I sneezed, which meant that we had to restart because we didn't think about that. And then, because of my sense of humor, I did a fake sneeze and accidentally sent them flying again. It was meant to be a fake out. So that's my sense of humor, but there you go. But yeah, I liked that. I thought it was fun. And there was this nice little. I liked that putting the sword together. I thought it was a nice little logic puzzle where you were putting the sword together because you could brute force it, but also if you realize that like some of the colors there was only one, so you had to use that one for that color, and then that meant that it was obvious which ones you were using for the others. I thought it was a nice little logic puzzle. Just worked really well. And I did like the fact that with the spider. I mean, this is the sort of puzzle I've not seen this sort of puzzle for a long time in these exit games, so I thought that was fun. And then having the additional bit where you've got to, oh, hang on, it's the runes, so let's figure out what the runes are and translate it. I thought that was fun. Um, Couple of others, like I say, I'm not talking about every single one, and I am just sort of going over them sort of briefly. But I actually liked the one with Gollum. So I like the fact that there was 3 different puzzle cards and 3 slightly different puzzles and done in different ways, and then you had to apply that to a 4th puzzle. I really like that multi. I don't. I know that some of these exit game puzzles have been in parts before, but I didn't remember where there was like 4 distinct stages in the past. I could be wrong, and I'm not saying that any of those stages were particularly hard, but I like the fact that there were 4 different parts to solving the one puzzle. I really enjoyed that. I did enjoy it. I think before I talk about my favorite puzzle, this one where you're looking through the door and you're lining it up. So we sort of figured out what it was we were lining it up with fairly quickly, and we figured out that we're putting the box on the book, but we couldn't necessarily see it straight away. And I think we had the right idea, but we couldn't quite execute it. And maybe that's just the way my brain was working, or maybe it's overthinking it or something. But I think this one we ended up just going for a clue just to get that last little bit. It's like we knew we were doing the right thing, we just couldn't quite get that final stage. So this was good, a little bit clunky, but it was interesting. I like the way you were looking through the door and seeing what you could see. That was kind of neat. So my favorite puzzle, weirdly enough, and silly enough, was this one. So this is where you were cutting out different coloured flags depending on which card it was, and then you were laying them over the top to get a reading. With these exit puzzles, it's often that you're doing something that you've sort of done before. You're doing it, but this I felt was in a slightly different way. And when I saw how it all worked together, and we figured out, pretty quickly, but when we put it all together, both me and my housemate both stood back and went, that's neat. I like that. It just worked as a puzzle. I really enjoyed it. And so yeah, that was my favorite puzzle. I don't know what you thought of it. Now, another puzzle that I did enjoy, but this is where my one niggle from the game comes from. So I quite liked this. So I guess the clue for putting this in the disc is the whole we'd already sort of seen, because we're suspicious of everything. So we'd already looked at the decoder and found these extra little bits. And I like the fact that you take the decoder disc apart, you put it together with this new disc, and then you can look at it. And I love these weird optical illusions where you can see different symbols, and these are symbols you've been collecting, and figure out which ones you've seen and which ones you haven't seen. I liked the whole puzzle of it. I liked the way it did it, and I loved the fact that they used this. That was great. And then you've got the numbers, and you've got to take it apart and put the decoder disc back together again. That was just a little bit clunky. Usually once you've taken something apart in these games, that's it, it's done. And the fact that you had to take something apart, put something else together, that was neat. But then you had to take that apart and put the original thing back together. That was just a little bit clunky. But overall, the puzzles were fun. Like I say, not the most mind-blowing. The flags one was my favorite, but the way they weaved the story was what really made this one for me. And woof, did they. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, take care and bye.